hires from the Wisconsin School for Beginning Dairy and Livestock Farmers. Those of you who don't know about that, there's a brochure on the back table. Our school starts up again with short course on November 1st, so we're still looking for more students. And yeah, thanks for coming today. You've read the information that I emailed to you probably, but essentially you're helping us assess and improve our organic pasture management education efforts that we're doing here. It's a partnership between UW-Madison, Extension, and Organic Valley. We're trying to develop training and build more capacity for organic pasture management and soil health. We were awarded a grant, a FAFO grant, which stands for Farmers Advocating for Organics, which is put out by Organic Valley farmers. So they were the ones that voted on this project and wanted it to go forward, the farmers themselves. And our overall goal of the project is a 3-year project. Lofty goal, but basically to preserve and increase organic acreage by helping current and future generations of farmers be successful and profitable. And through that, with that goal in mind, we're trying to help educators. So we're trying to give more information to any agency personnel out there that might be interested in learning more about organic pasture management and soil health. And one of the ways that we're going to do that is have these training events. We're doing pilots this year. We're hoping to do more next year. So these are going to be evaluated by you all. A lot of you have a lot of experience, and hopefully we'll get some more newbies next year. We want to hear from you what worked and what didn't work from today. We had one in Lancaster, which also had a great turnout, a lot of good feedback, and we're hoping to have in other parts of the state next year too. So take some time to look at the evals today afterwards. They will help us, and they'll also help some researchers learn about what topics need more future research and more outreach in the future through our staff. So thank you again for being here today to do that. I'm not going to go into the details too much because we joined a little late today, but basically I'm going to be giving you a finished product via email later this fall, which is a literature review that was done by grad students first. That was done last year, trying to figure out if there were any big holes in the grazing research, and that was what we used to go forward into these trainings. But essentially the cliff notes from that literature review was that there's virtually not much literature out there on how organic management influences perennial pasture. So in terms of actual research being done, and that may not be surprising to you, but there are only a few articles. And so from those few articles, there was some evidence that there's not a lot of fundamental differences between soil and plant dynamics in organically managed pastures and non-organically managed pastures, but we can't draw major conclusions from only 2 or 3 articles. So that's why we have to keep doing more research. And basically, with that in mind, these trainings have a lot with grazing management principles that are developed for non-organic pastures because that's what we have to work with. But I'm sure Joanna will tell you more about what she's learned working with specifically organic pastures and what the recommendations would be, keeping those organic standards in mind as we go forward. So thank you again for being here today. And I'd like to introduce Yoana Newman to come up. So some of you may know her, professor at UW Falls in agronomy, correct?
Yeah, crop and soils.
Crop and soils, okay.
So yeah, I work there. Thank you very much, Nadia, and thank you, all of you, for being here. I, like Nadia mentioned, I work at River Falls, and I've been working with forages, for a while. Maybe not a while in the upper Midwest because I'm relatively new to this region, but I've been working a lot with grazing systems. I'm originally from Venezuela, and both my parents, they were dairymen and a rancher. So most of the production system that we do there, it's based on grazing, rotational grazing, all kind of grazing. And then I've been working I worked for a while, a few years, almost 20, in the coastal plains. So there I work with some conventional dairies, and in Florida probably the only way to expand is to go into grazing dairies. So for one of the largest dairies there, Alliance, they had all their grazing dairies, and I was kind of in charge of developing their pasture before they developed those into grazing dairies. Kind of, following that New Zealand model, where they had center pivots, and then, then you just, do your rotation. So this group, they kind of expanded and developed or grew into about 4 or 5 of these grazing dairies, which were not organic in nature, but like they said, they were sustainable. Okay? And then 4 years ago, I came to the upper Midwest, and I've been kind of, gradually going north, from the tropics, then Florida. I had a stint in Texas, and there also that's dairy country. I was in Stephenville, and in there, of course, I work with some of the organic dairies and some conventional, but that was a short time. Went back to Florida, and then I came up to the upper Midwest. So Nari asked me today to talk about pasture establishment and extending the grazing season. So I put some pictures in there and trying to guide you through here. I said there, how do we go from basically a place where we need to, we're looking at the first slide where, we're looking at where we need to plan or renovate these into our third slide, which is how do we go from here into this, where I thought, what I try to show with this one is actually, it was a video. I didn't know we had the, but we will do with this. On where it says to here, this is actually a dairy in Bassett, so that would be east of here. And this would be, this picture, this third picture basically shows what is an ideal pasture for dairy cows. So in there you have probably the right height that you're looking for, the right combination and mix, different grasses, orchard grass, alside clover, red clover, white clover. So you can see that it's kind of like the target that we wanted to look for when we want something that to be fully established. So what are the keys? And that's what I based the presentation on, is what are the keys to successfully establishing a pasture? So this is more kind of like guidelines. You are from the area, you are the experts on the soils here and how they behave and the interaction with the plant. So with that, I'll start, one of the keys to good establishment is to choose the right species. And by right species is to use those pastures or those species that are regionally adapted. By that I mean pasture plants that are adapted to the soil type in terms of pH, texture, fertility, and drainage. The first thing that we do whenever we're looking at a plan or a program for a grazing management systems is to check the soil and the soil conditions. Even in Wisconsin, which I think, this is the mecca of all forages, having been through the gradient of different environments, from very poor fertility, as you would find in the tropics, to very sandy soils in the coastal plains, still low fertility. You find high fertility areas. To the upper Midwest, where you have, very high organic matters. And, people say, well, I have low organic matter. I only got like 2%. Wow, that would be like a huge goal when you're working in very sandy soils, where your organic matter is probably less than 1. So not only in terms of knowing the soil, but you need to know, even in Wisconsin, we have areas, if we're looking at the driftless region, on the west side of the state, from north to south, probably that's more of a very sandy, probably low fertility soils. When we come to this area here, usually we point out, we're sitting in one of the best soils, I would say, in the country, if not, I would extend it to one of the best countries, one of the best soils, for pasture production in general. So soil type is important because we need to know if the fertility that we have. We need to know the texture, the physical conditions. Are we in sandy soils? Do we have a clay that may have more desirable characteristics in terms of what makes fertility, maybe more challenging issues with the physical aspects of the soil. Being more clay, you will have more issues in the soil. 2, pH, and pH is critical because sometimes we think that because we have in our neighboring pastures, if we think we have the presence of legumes, just because they're there, that doesn't mean that we have the right soil pH condition. So we may be looking at something that looks like that it can grow, but we may not have the right pH. We may be down maybe a couple of points. So if we're targeting something like 6-8 for legume growth, we may be sitting at 6. And then that fertility needs before we think about going further with the establishment plan. So use adapted species to soil type, pH, texture, fertility, species that are tolerant to grazing, and species that are winter hardy for the upper midways. When I talk about pH and drainage, for example, for this area, we may have different things that are in the species toolbox. So we may be looking at alsite, which may tolerate more kind of seasonally flooded. If we were to choose clover species. So you need to see what soil type you have, pH, texture, and then try to adapt. If it's more of a clay type like we have here, then we need to be looking at things that will tolerate some more moisture. And then we need to kind of, go on that. I'll talk about it a little bit later. So the next slide we have here, I like to show, or I like to go by this forage calendar, because when we look at the forage calendar for our area, or here in Wisconsin, we can see that in terms of species, basically most of the species that we have, they're more of the cool season that have what I call a shoulder type of growth. So a big growth curve, very rapid rate in the spring. Then we have a summer slump, and then we have again another peak of production toward the fall. But we have a gap in the middle. So part of the presentation is what are the keys to establishment and how can we extend the grazing season. So for that summer slump, we may consider summer annuals, depending on the operation, but that is one way where we can fill that summer slump. And I'll talk at the end about some summer annuals that we've been working with in Northwest Wisconsin, and that is teff and crabgrass. And then we need to look at the growth pattern of the forages. So together with that, we have the different forages, the small grains, the summer annuals, orchard grass, timothy, smooth brown, quack, and red canary grass. These are two species that we will read and see a lot of fact sheets, where they're referred to as invasive. But sometimes, if you're in a riverbank and most of your area is covered with red canary grass, you need to know how to manage red canary grass. It's actually an excellent forage. It just needs to be managed properly and accordingly, so you don't let it go to maturity, but keep it more on a vegetative stage. But it's well adapted to seasonally flooded areas. Then we have, likewise, we have quackgrass, which is more, there are two types on the quackgrass. There's an introduced quack and there's a native quack. But if you talk to old-timers, they will tell you that quackgrass save many, in the sense that this is one of the grasses that will tend to fill in early. There's not much. There was an attempt early on to do some selections of quackgrass, and that was stopped because it was deemed to be an invasive. So that was the end. I think Dr. Lou Group and Kassler, a few years ago, or I would say decades ago, they embarked into this type of improvement. So if we look at the seasonal growth forages, we have there, cool seasons, have that big early spring. We have the legumes. They tend to be less productive, but they go through end of the spring, through the summer, and end of the fall. And we have some of the brassicas there represented by turnips, and more with the forage soil health, we see a lot of use of these brassicas. Tillage radish. We had last Friday a forage soil health workshop in River Falls, and we had Jason share his experience with all of the plantings that they've been doing and the success that they've been having with the tillage radish. So what are the key legumes for the upper Midwest? So that would be red clover, white clover, alsike for more of the wetter areas. Cura clover is an excellent forage. It's one that hasn't received the attention for the potential it has for the state. I think there's now some effort into improve or production of seed, but it's not something that you'll see out there. Yet I think this is one of the workhorses for the upper Midwest. It's very cold tolerant, very well adapted. It has a rhizomatous type of growth habit that makes it very winter hardy. And once it's established in a pasture situation, it's kind of there to stay, with proper management. Then we have barefoot trefoil, who also makes a good stand. Not ideal if you're looking at, we're in a dairy setting here, but some of the horse owners, it's something that we say, when you can have it there, you can add nitrogen, through barefoot trefoil, but that is something that is not palatable. So you'll be there, you will build up soil because it's not consumed. Not the case for beef or dairy. And then of course we have alfalfa with all the excellent features that alfalfa has. It's the queen of forages, and we have many different types. More of the grazing types, are out there in the market. So I talk about a little bit about cura clover, adaptation to poorly drained areas. That is kind of in a wide range. We can have cura in acidic or slightly acidic all the way to basic into 7. And like you can see there, there's a picture showing the rhizomatous nature of cura clover. Okay, so that's the one key. So we need to start with the right species for the right area. Then comes the time of planting, and most fields in Wisconsin, and when we're looking planting is matching up the moisture with the planting conditions. Spring is preferred because you have more, depend on more moisture, better temperature for germination, and less risk of frost for legumes. Late summer has the advantages of fewer weeds, drier soils, and less seeding damping off. So timing is key, and you just need to know what makes a successful planting in the spring, and what are the things that you'll be facing, that you'll be faced with. Particular for an organic production, the fact that we do not have herbicides makes it a little bit more challenging. But as we will see later on, we can target those with mowing. And then timing of mowing of certain weeds, it's key as well. Then we said species, time of planting, soil test. Fertilizing and liming provide good yields. Most clover and legumes require pH that are higher than 6.8. And actually the pH is not for the legumes. The pH basically is something that we need to raise up because most of the rhizobium cannot survive at pH lower than 6.8. With fewer exceptions, if they're summer legumes, the rhizobium or the microorganism that works in this symbiosis to fixing nitrogen is very specific to the different type of legume. So if it's a summer legume, it will have a certain type of rhizobium, but most of the cool season legumes will prefer or will require a pH that needs to be at least 6.6 or 6.8 in the case of alfalfa specifically. Having a good fertilizing and liming option, guarantees better growth of the forage and establishment. In case of organic operations, the type of liming material is kind of limited, but it still can be used. I believe you can use calcium carbonate and dolomite. The advantage of dolomite is that in addition, dolomite brings magnesium. So if you need to raise that pH, these are some things that you can apply. And right there, you are looking at one more thing that you're checking off for a successful establishment. So then we come into what are the scenarios for planting pasture. So we have frost seeding, no-till or minimum tillage, and then prepare seedbed. And although we're in the mindset more and more of minimum tillage or no tillage, there are occasions where we need to totally renovate an area and then think, prepare seedbed. So in the case, starting with the first one, frost seeding. Frost seeding is usually effective for smaller areas. Species like red clover, perennial ryegrass, and orchard seems to be effective. For alfalfa, doesn't always seem to be a good option because alfalfa requires warmer temperatures for germination. And when we're at the frost seeding, it is one aspect, where we're trying to take advantage of that retrieving snow, and then that's when we go and throw our seed out there. Smooth grown, it's a frost seeding, shows poor results with smooth grown, particularly because for species that have rhizomes like smooth grown does, they're usually very slow to germinate. And then when we're using something like frost seeding, you would like to go with a seed that you will throw out there and it will have a quick germination. Then no-till seeding, and here we have section where we have, you have the advantage of having the local experts nearby. No-till, of course, reduces the risk of erosion, and it has the advantage that it keeps the moisture seep in. When you're doing, you can no-till into harvested annual crops or cover crops. You can no-till seed into perennial crops like alfalfa. And actually, in the case of no-tilling into perennial crops or alfalfa, has the advantage that you could have a stand that is toward the end of the life there, and you can probably extend that by no-tilling species like orchard grass. So, and might be a way of extending the life of that alfalfa stand, and you can probably keep it there for many more years than you would if you have just a regular stand of alfalfa if you were just producing, silage out of it. Then we have, okay, so there were the pictures just showing the alfalfa stand, and then where there's, kind of looks like a finger, it's actually a finger showing into, you can, with the proper seeding rates, you can get that orchard grass to germinate. Maybe you won't see much during the seeding year, but the following year, that no-till orchard will basically, whether it's orchard or if you have a seeding mix, it's usually the following year when you will see kind of like a explosion in the stand. That's what is being shown on where it says, that would be first, second page at the bottom where it says no-till seeding, and it says overseeding grass into perennial crops, alfalfa. Okay. When you're thinking about no-till seeding into established pastures, one of the key things is that it requires the control of pre-existing vegetation. For establishment, one of the important things is having that seed to soil contact. So if you don't mow short and just come and no-till, chances are by reducing that vegetation that you will have more success into the no-till seed. But in any case, no-till is challenging. Then I have a chart next that it shows mechanical control, and I thought it would be a good chart to show because it basically shows the different main weeds. They're very small in there, but you have a combination there. Some of the things that they're calling weeds are some of the things that we do graze in our pasture. But if you're looking for control of some of them, you have a chart there that shows the different months. In green, it will indicate when to mow, because the target is not to let them go into seed. And then you have there in yellow when not to mow, which is when it's not effective, either because they have already, most of these weeds have already gone into bloom, and then the mowing is not as effective. Okay. In working or discussing some of the practices in nearby organic dairies by River Falls, we have Dan Pearson, and he has found